your screen in a moment. There we go.
Yep, that's it started. Okay. Do we have any apologies?
No apologies, Councillor Shaw.
Okay, any declarations of interest or transparency statements? None. Item 1 on the agenda is the minutes of the previous meeting, the 11th of November. Any questions, Michael?
So just declaration of interest. I'm now associated with Renfrew Football Club, ladies side, and also Renfrewshire Parent Council.
All right, is that in relation to funding that's been awarded?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. You don't. Well, I think that's probably a connection rather than a declaration of interest to be technically correct. So we won't be asking you to leave the meeting. Okay, thanks, Michael. Item 1, minutes of previous meeting. Any other questions or comments? Are we okay to agree the minutes? Okay. Item 2 is a presentation on the community asset transfer process from Sandra Inrig, who's the programme manager for community asset transfer and regeneration, and a hugely overworked.
Your microphone's not on.
Sorry, can everybody turn off their mics?
Thanks very much, Ken.
Yeah, I was just saying, Sandra, how overworked and busy and you know, some job you do. So I'm looking forward to this presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going to put my camera off for a wee minute and then I'll share my screen. I've just got a number of slides just to run through, and I'll take any questions at the end if that's okay.
Okay.
Share screen first of all. Share screen. Sorry, I'm getting a bit finger tied there. Okay, come on, show slide. Sorry, I think the recording button's just getting in the way of my controls here. Apologies for that. Can everybody see it okay like that? If I can't get it to show the actual...
Yeah, I can see it fine.
Actual slideshow. Oh, there we go, that's a bit better. Okay, so community asset transfer, I think there's a number of people on the call have got some knowledge or experience of that, but I was asked to come along to the local partnership meetings in terms just of raising awareness of asset transfer as a process in relation to communities taking control of assets within their local area. So say I've got a few slides just in terms of the background, some asset transfer information from Renfrew, and then a little bit just about the process. So asset transfers controlled by a piece of legislation called the Community Empowerment Scotland Act, and essentially what it is a process in statute that allows community organisations to take over publicly owned land or buildings in a way that recognises public benefits that community use might bring over those buildings or land continuing to be managed by a public body, so in this case the council. There are a wide range of organisations that can apply. There is some criteria for that, the most important of which is that organisations must be community controlled, and by that we mean that it's a two-tier, a constituted structure with two tiers where you have members who elect a board of management, a board of trustees, whatever organisations call it, and those members have control of the organisation. And the body can be constituted or it can be incorporated. In terms of how it works, the legislation actually gives a right, it's a right that's set down in statute, to own, lease or have rights over the land or property. If groups want to own, to purchase property, they do need to be incorporated with a minimum of 20 members. So that means they need to be set up as a scale or a company limited by guarantee, but we can help organisations to do that if they've not got that structure already. So the legislation kind of recognises that, you know, there's a lot of power that can come with ownership or control of land or buildings, and that's quite a powerful tool for communities to drive change. And that's the whole, you know, it's a kind of raison d'etre from the legislation itself. And I've just put a few bullet points down there in terms of, well, if you transfer assets, what's the kind of things that can enable communities to do? And it can be about creating whole new community facilities, or it could be about taking over existing facilities and delivering your own activities from those. It could be about improving the use of existing facilities. Overall, it's about taking control and securing the future of assets for community use. And what it can also do is to formalise where there's been existing lease or licence arrangements in place, and there are a number of those across the council, then asset transfer is a means of formalising those and securing that asset for the long term. And what reason behind asset transfer, in a sense, and why we would promote it, is groups have access to a wide range of external funding to be able to improve assets for community use that public bodies simply wouldn't be able to do. And I'm sure you're all thinking of assets in the area where that's the case. So just briefly in terms of the types of assets, we already said it's any land or buildings that are owned or leased. So that includes absolutely everything that you would associate as the council having control over: schools, offices, parks, libraries, sports centres, but also kind of open spaces, gap sites, development sites, allotments. So absolutely everything as you walk around Renfrew, if it's owned by the council, then it's available for asset transfer. We do categorise assets, whether they're commercial, operational or surplus. And although, you know, in theory, all assets are available for asset transfer, the reality is that some are required for operational use. So, for example, we wouldn't be able to asset transfer an operational school, for example, or core offices. Shops or commercial units are generally leased out to businesses and therefore not likely to be available for asset transfer. If they become vacant, then they're up for grabs. And just in putting asset transfer in a context. And so the council's been, over the last few years, has been undertaking a strategic property review. So we've systematically been looking at every asset, land and buildings that are owned or leased by the council in terms of their viability and their sustainability for future use, etc. So I'm not saying we're, you know, it's not like a list of properties that we want to get rid of, but that's an exercise that the council has been undertaking. And I just want to put asset transfer in that context. So I was asked to make a slide in each of these presentations that was specific to the local area. And just the first half of that is just highlighting the assets that are within the Renfrew area. I've not listed them all by name, but you know, there's a number of community centres, pitches, playing fields, pavilions, bowling club, different growings grounds, the former children's home, the former police station, and you know, vacant and non-operational buildings. So all of those assets could be available for asset transfer. And in terms of successful asset transfers from this area, to date, people will be familiar with the custom cruisers who took over the former public toilets in Robertson Park and run the bike lending and lost my words, apologies for that, but yeah, I'm sure you all know what they do is that they do up bikes for local children and families. Stuart's on the call today, but Kirklandnewk Playing Fields and Pavilion was also an asset transfer. Stuart, I'm sure we'll say later in the questions, he's not actually got his lease yet, and we can cover that off if that question comes up later on. And also the former Longcroft Children's Home, there is an active asset transfer request that is being developed by that from Renfrew Development Trust, and Kevin's on the call and he may be able to say something more about that. There has been an asset transfer request that was refused in Renfrewshire, that was last year, and it was for the cricket fields that form part of the KG5. And the reason the asset transfer request was failed was that the council may require that land in the future for school development, and that could be a reason for refusing asset transfer. As I've alluded to before, there are a variety of other arrangements. So the self-managed community halls, there's licenses to occupy, there's different areas of grounds that have been identified for community growing or gardening. All of those are suitable to convert to a CAT and could be in the interest of the community organisations that are running those, that would give them a greater degree of control and ability to raise funding for those assets should they want to do that. So in terms of the process, I'm not going to dwell on this, you'll be pleased to know. The council publishes its asset register, that's available on the website. In theory groups, you identify an asset within your local community. You think about how is that currently being used? How would you use it? What would be the differences or the benefits in you owning or leasing that asset as opposed to the council running that asset? We have a expression of interest form, which is fairly informal, but what it exists to do is to check the availability and any issues that may impact on an asset transfer. So for example, condition, and we want to be upfront with groups in terms of the condition of properties, any restrictions or covenants that exist or any future proposals, so that you're not wasting your time developing an asset transfer request that's not going to go anywhere. The full CAT request does require quite a bit of detail in terms of what you propose to do, the benefits to the local community. You need to be able to evidence support from the local community and capacity within your organisation, including financial capacity, sustainability, including financial projections. There's then a fair bit of jargon, so we have to validate an application, we publicise an application, we seek representations for applications, and then it goes forward for assessment, which is done by an officer panel, and then to the Community Asset Transfer Subcommittee for determination. Subcommittees made up of elected members, subcommittee of the Infrastructure, Land and Environment Policy Board, and they essentially make the decisions on asset transfers. The process then enters into a kind of formal conveyancing process where there's an offer and completion of contracts, just as you would expect to do if you were negotiating a new lease, or you're moving into a new house or buying a house. And overall, the process can take between 12 and 18 months. I'm always upfront with groups about that. It doesn't happen overnight. It is a legal process and there's no quick fixes in it at all. So we're always upfront about that. But the good thing is there's a lot of support that's available to community groups who may be interested in exploring asset transfer. my own role as a single point of contact within the council, so I can even help you find assets within the local community that may or may not be available for asset transfer, and support you in terms of how you structure yourself as an organisation if you're not already set up in that way, and support you in your application. The Council's Invest in Renfrewshire Economic Development Service is also available to groups and has lots of tools available. They work very closely with Engage Renfrewshire. And there's lots of support available for community organisations as well. And there's a national support service through the Community Ownership Support Service, just set up by Scottish Government specifically to support organisations in asset transfers. And there's a range of funding to enable groups to do that as well. So, I mean, your own local partnership funding, you might find it's appropriate that could help your groups establish a feasibility study for taking over an asset, for example. The Sustainable Communities Fund is used often by groups seeking to take over an asset, and revenue funding is available for business planning, for feasibility studies, etc. And there's a wide range of other local, national and charitable funds that are available that are geared up to supporting asset transfer. And just mentioning the RENSEN funding newsletter at the end of that. And if folk want to know a bit more about that, then they can contact me after, if you're not already on that mailing list. That's all I wanted to say up front, Councillor. My contact details are there, the Community Asset Transfer mailbox, and I'll happily take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Sandra. That was really interesting. I guess it's quite interesting that we've got Stuart on the call, who is probably the most experienced person in Renfrewshire when it comes to dealing with community asset transfers, given that he's been through the process twice now, and still doesn't have a lease. So maybe Stuart could have some words to say about that. We've also got Kevin, who is going through the process at the moment, and we've also got Blair Ross from Renfrew Town Sea Scouts, who had an initial inquiry in recently, but it's not mentioned in any of the screens there. So no. I'm sure we'll have some questions here. So who wants to go first? Nobody's got anything to say.
Stuart's got his hand up.
Oh, has he? Stuart.
I'll go first, Councillor Shaw. Firstly, I would like to say that I would encourage anybody to get through the process, albeit we had a lot of stop-starts along the way, but I think that was due to navigating COVID and other issues, both in the council and on our legal side. We certainly had a lot of help at the start from one of the officers, Kelly Miller, who guided us through it. Then there's a little gap, and when Sandra came on the scene, what you say that she's been a great help in trying to navigate the pitfalls we had to endure over the course. One of which ours wasn't really an easy one to do, because we took over the pavilion and the playing fields, which were obviously attached to the community centre. So that posed its own problems of water, utilities, electricity, heating. So all that had to be packaged up first. But as Sandra mentioned, it does open a number of doors to get funding. So we have probably spent upwards of 300,000 on the facility, not only internally but externally. The internal structure was stripped back because obviously it was built in 1976 when there was only 12 players in a football team. Now there can be 16 players, numerous coaches, referees, we had to adapt the facility. We managed to get, as Sandra alluded there, funding from the council to take it over, and as 50% of the cost was given by Sports Scotland. So we managed to do all that probably for 160 odd thousand, and if anybody's looking to come down, I would happily host you and show you what we've actually done, which is night and day from what it used to look like. After that, we had the opportunity, I'm sure everybody's well aware of all the social media and such like they went about, but we built a Johan Cruyff mugger outside. But I'll not bore into the details because probably you've all seen it. But now, listening to the feedback from the local community, they're all saying that the kids are thoroughly enjoying being able to access a safe area to play in on school holidays and summer holidays where activities are limited, not unless you can pay for them. All our activities are free, part of the Cruyff charter. We can't charge for anything. We cover all the costs of maintenance and any other insurances and such like. But we also had to apply for planning permission, which was done separately for the asset transfer. But again, wouldn't have been able to do all that if we hadn't asset transferred the facility. Which, as I said, when we took over, it was a failing ground and probably wouldn't be health and safety. It would probably be closed by now. But as I say, I would say to everybody, get in contact if you like to come down. You'll see what we've done. And we now host events for the local schools. St Mirren Foundation. I've got a meeting tomorrow with Walking Football. To host a couple of daytime activities down there. It's just the real thing is that it's open to everybody. I've obviously opened it to the community for little kids' birthday parties, which are obviously very, very expensive if you go to other local areas. And I've said to them, come down, use the facilities for your kids, because obviously money's tight for a lot of people. We wouldn't take any money because that's part of the Cruyff charter. So this year, the facility will officially open on the 13th of May. It'll be opened by Michael Moles, Dutch ex-Rangers International. Come over, he's an ambassador for the Cruyff Foundation. But I will say, or the Cruyff Foundation will send out invites to everyone to come down. On that day, we'll be hosting the first inaugural Cruyff Football Festival, which will cover all the cluster schools in Renfrew, and also Shannon Primary, boys and girls. So everybody will get an invite. Cruyff have asked for a mailing list. They'll do all the invites and sort of things. But as I said, to finish off, Sandra's been a great support. I know we've had our challenges at times, but she's did it. And I would say anybody that's looking to navigate the process is well what I'm doing. Then do any questions or anything to ask?
Thanks, Stuart. Stuart's right. You know, the staying across the park from the pavilion and Nether Green, it's been amazing seeing it kind of evolve over the last 2 or 3 years, and a shining example of what can be done with a successful community asset transfer. And you know, Stuart has put a huge amount of work into it, and the funds he's raised has been phenomenal. You know, both for the pavilion, the kind of outside area, and the Cruyff Court itself, which is fair to say wasn't universally accepted as a good idea at the start, but it seems to be for the most part now. So it's been some job, and as Stuart says, you should go along and see it if you haven't seen it already. It's very impressive. So Kathy,
But just to say, Stuart, wow, well done. Determination, commitment to the challenge, and you done it. You got the end result. Well done. Shown the way.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Kathy. All of us set out to do is to make a difference. That was the only thing we wanted to do.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. No other questions or comments? Nobody else want to get? Sorry.
Convener Tom Johnson has his hand up.
I'm not seeing hands up yet. That's a bit odd. Sorry. Yep. So Tom had his actual hand up.
Can I just applaud Stuart what he's done, but also like to point out that Renfrew FC have done something similar in the park. We've got a new surface, we've got new lights, we're updating the pavilion, etc. We've got something over 850 people use our facility every week, and obviously for the good of the community. So working with Stuart, I think we could make a big difference to the youngsters in Renfrew. But we need the support of the local population, which I don't think either of us get enough at this moment in time.
Still waiting for that coffee, Tom.
Listen, Tommy, you emailed me about a coffee after 8 years, and I didn't get back to that. I feel really bad now.
It's ridiculous, guys.
I don't think it was a competition. I was waiting for Tom to come in there and advertise his walking football as well. But it's amazing to see such two. I mean, I was involved myself at the start with Renfrew FC when they built the new ground. So it was always a concern, in the early years, that would there be funding available to redo that pitch when it needed to be redone. So to see it redone and the club being successful in funding applications is amazing. And it'll stand it in good stead for years to come. So
let's hope so, John. And just on the walking football, it took place today down at the ground, and we started off by about half a dozen people turning up. We were promised help from the council, which frankly didn't materialise. But we had something in excess of 30 people in attendance today, and that's happening every week, and it's growing. So again, it's for the good of Renfrew.
Excellent. Okay.
We've got 50 of them turning up next week.
Right, guys. My dad's bigger than your dad, right? Okay.
Stuart, I'll keep you for that coffee.
No, right, okay. I'm going to bring in Blair now and move us off football. Blair.
Just a quick question really for Sandra. Are you still able to get the special exemption from the government if you're not a SKIO or a limited company?
You can apply to the government to be recognised as an asset transfer body. You would still need to be a two-tier organisation. I'm trying to recall, Blair, from the conversations that we had previously. The Sea Scouts weren't eligible because of the kind of hierarchical structure of the Scout movement, and that it's not, although you have members locally who use your services, they don't have overall control of the parent organisation. And that's one of the reasons
I'm just trying to get my head around it, because obviously we've been back and forth and back and forth. But certainly I know there's several other scout groups in Scotland that have been able to do the community asset transfer. It's just when it comes to us in Renfrew, we're unable to do it. There's certainly ones down in Inverclyde that have been able to get buildings and stuff. It's just trying to figure out if they've been able to get the special exemption, or because they're definitely not SKIOs.
Right. You don't need to be a SKIO, but you do need to be that community-controlled organisation. Public bodies can do asset transfer out with the legislation that I've spoken about this evening. Renfrewshire Council makes use of the legislation, so asset transfers within Renfrewshire do go through the community asset transfer process and are governed thereby by the legislation. But I know that in other local authority areas, they will talk to groups directly out with the legislation, and assets have transferred in that way. So, you may well hear of other groups, but it's not necessarily that they've been through the formal CAP process. So it's worth checking that.
Yeah,
No worries,
Blair,
brilliant, thank you.
if there are other scout groups which have been successful through the process, then if you can find out some information as to how they went about it, either go back to Sandra or come to myself, we're more than happy to look at that. And I think, there's also the opportunity, Sandra, for a group to be set up with some sort of Friends of Renfrew Sea Scouts group that could possibly run an asset transfer, as long as that was set up under the particular rules that you talked about earlier. That opportunity would be open. Yeah.
That's absolutely correct, Councillor. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at now. So hopefully we can get that sorted in the next couple of months. But thanks very much.
Good stuff. Thanks, Blair.
Give me a call, Blair, in terms of what you're thinking of that structure, because we can help out with that.
Will do. Cheers.
All right, Michael.
Thanks, John. Just a question for Sandra. In the slides, you mentioned there's a ongoing property review. When is that due to be completed, and will that be reported on?
I'm not sure when it's going to be reported on, Michael. It's not me that's been controlling that. I mean, the review is essentially complete in that the council has reviewed all of the assets that it owns or leases. But in terms of when that'll be reported, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question.
Okay, no bother. Thank you.
That would be a report. That something like that would probably come to a leadership board, Michael.
Yeah.
At some point in the future. Okay. No other questions. Thank you very much for that, Sandra. Generated a lot of chat there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. I thought Councillor Hughes was wanting to come in. Did she come in? No. Okay. All right. Next up, we've got the Renfrew Local Partnership Budget Monitoring and Update paper. Stuart, are you going to take us through this?
Okay, will do, Councillor Shaw. Apologies, my camera is not working at the moment, so I'm not on screen. So you've got before you the Local Partnership Update Report. It just gives you the budget position that we've achieved to date. So the appendix at Table 2, the appendix at Table 1 gives you the local partnership spend from last year, and Appendix 2 gives you the Celebrating Renfrewshire grant applications there. We've also mentioned the Winter Connections programme, which is underway at the moment, and you'll see at paragraph 113 that there are 2 Winter Connections activities in Renfrew. So Our Place, Our Families has got a Soup for You project, and Renfrew YMCA I've got a Tuesday Soup Social, and that's running up to 31st of March 2026. We're also open for the 2026-27 round of funding applications. Applications were invited from the 29th of January, and the deadline for applying to the meeting that will be held on 13th of May is Sunday 15th of March. So if you're thinking about applications, then please get your application in, and if you need any support from that, then myself and Kerry can help you with that. We've also got at paragraph 114 onwards there some information about the Scottish parliamentary elections that are taking place on Thursday the 7th of May. So there's information there about the parliamentary constituencies. There's some changes there, and also encouraging people to either themselves or other people to be registered to vote, and there's some information there about that. And really that's all that's in the update, but happy to take any questions you've got.
Okay, any questions, comments? The next local partnership meeting after this one is not until the 13th of May, which is not as later, I think, than normal for a funding meeting, but that's entirely due to the Scottish parliamentary elections. So are we able to wait till then? But I'm not seeing any hands up. No, okay, thanks very much, Stuart. That was just for noting. The Next up, we've got the Renfrew Local Partnership Priorities Workshop. Is this you again, Stuart?
Yes, I'll take you through that, Councillor Shaw. Thanks very much. So as everyone knows, Renfrew Local Partnership and the other local partnerships indeed worked on their local priorities in winter 24-25. I've just posted the local priorities in the chat bar there, just so you can see them and you can scroll up and scroll down to refresh your memory about what they were, but I'll take you over them. And really what we're looking to do tonight was, as you know, the local partnership priorities help inform and to guide applicants about the sort of activities that Renfrew Local Partnership wants to see in Renfrew area. But really tonight what we wanted to ask you was, were there some other actions that you wanted the officers to kind of progress on your behalf in terms of taking forward the local partnership priorities? And what we're thinking of was this would be a rolling action plan, if you like. So we're thinking maybe of between 3 and 5 actions that the officers can take away and start working on for you, things that you would like to see developed to really take forward the priorities there. So a bit of discussion tonight about that, or indeed if yourselves as local partnership members want to do your own work on that, but you want the officers to facilitate that, then we can help you take that forward as well. So just a little recap about what the local priorities that you identified were. So the first one is about sustaining and enhancing Renfrew Town Centre. What you're saying there is that you want to see more things to do in the town centre, reflect the growing, increasingly diverse population, and encourage new events and see more things happening in the evenings as well. So you wanted to drive new projects forward to make the best use of community assets and spaces that we've got already in Renfrew, and that could include working with town centre businesses and the community to support events and activities, and there was an aim to bring increased economic benefit into the town. So that was your first priority there. The second one was about making the most of public assets, and we've obviously had a good presentation, a lot of discussion tonight about the community asset transfer process, which is one way of doing this. But what you wanted as a local partnership was to see public resources, parks and outdoor spaces used as fully as possible. And what we're looking to do there was support both physical improvements and assets and the activities that take place there. And include making the best community use of other buildings in the community as well. So maybe not just the public ones, but other buildings that could maybe host community activity there as well. We recognise that there have been previous success, so the local partnership has invested significantly in Robertson Park and the Renfrewshire Pipe Band competition as an example, if you like, of how that's grown over the years. To enhance and produce a really good activity that's taking place in Renfrew. The third priority that you had there was strengthening social connections. We want to support activities that bring people together, so they encourage social connection and good physical and mental health. You were looking to develop new ideas to encourage engagement of local people in a way that appeals to different ages and activity levels. And we heard earlier on tonight about calls for support from the local community. So if there's anything we can do to help you do that, maybe that's something that you want to do. And what you were looking to prioritise was new and additional activity. So that was things that aren't currently in the Renfrew area, maybe things that are elsewhere in Renfrewshire that you would like to see brought into the area. Intergenerational projects that bring together older people and younger people. You're looking at sport or physical activities. Again, we've had some really good examples from the 2 football clubs tonight about that. And also addressing people that are experiencing challenging circumstances. So that might be isolation, or it might be the various different forms of poverty that people experience there as well. So that's one about bringing people together, providing new activities, connecting people to what's there already, bringing new activities in. And then the fourth one you identified and probably amplifies that theme was about joint working and collaboration. What you're looking to do was encourage local groups and projects to connect and to work together to deliver activities. You wanted to strengthen the connections between organisations or groups and develop those relationships to nurture future collaborations and reciprocal support there as well. So those are the 4 local priorities that you'd identified. As I say, it'd be good to have some discussion about if there are particular actions that you want the officers to work on, to take forward, to bring back to the local partnership. What I'd do after the meeting, once you've identified a few actions, is to write that up, submit that to you, just to make sure that we've captured what you said and what you want to do, and also maybe give an opportunity to the people that maybe couldn't make the call tonight to input into that as well. And what I would also say as well is there's obviously lots of different sort of work going on elsewhere in Renfrew as well. And Kevin and Renfrew Development Trust are introducing the local place plan, working on that. What we don't want to do is duplicate that work, but to complement what's going on there as well. So that's a wee bit from me. I'll take a breath now and open it up to yourselves for any ideas for actions that you maybe want us to take forward and develop going forward. Thanks. Would anybody like to kick us off?
Happy to take any comments or suggestions. I think what we have at the moment works well. I think it's key also that we continue the kind of setup we have at the moment, where any money that's granted has to be spent in Renfrew. So either in Renfrew by groups from Renfrew or in Renfrew by groups from outside. So if somebody wants, somebody from Paisley or Johnson or whatever wants some money, then it has to be for, an activity or something going on in Renfrew. I think that's key. I think that's made a huge difference to the amount of money that we've managed to distribute in Renfrew, whereas, maybe 50-60% of it previously was just going to random groups out with the town. We stopped that, and I think it's made a huge difference. But happy to take any comments from anyone. No comments? Well, I mean, this wouldn't relate to this year's funding anyway, Stuart, would it? Because the application process opened last week. So this would be for next year, essentially.
It's really, Councillor Shaw, it's any activity as in addition to the guidance to the local groups and the money that Renfrew Local Partnership awards to the groups. It's really to see if there was any other specific actions that you wanted the officers to progress, sort of during the course of the year, sort of in between meetings, that you would like to see develop. So some of the other areas.
We can let people think about it and bring it back at a future meeting, either the May one or one after that. But if anybody's got any ideas or suggestions, more than happy to look at them. Is that okay?
Yeah, certainly happy to give you some time to think about that and to work on that as we go ahead. Okay.
So get your thinking caps on. Okay. Well, that's us. Item 5 is the date of next meeting, which, as I previously said, is the 13th of May, so after the Scottish parliamentary elections. So we'll see you then. Is Kevin Milliken still on the call?
Yes.
Kevin, could you just hang on for a minute? I just want to have a quick chat with you.
John, can I just raise something just before you sign off?
Well, we don't really do AOCB, Tom, so...
Right, okay, forget it then.
I mean, quickly, what is it here?
Well, it's just a concern, actually, for the people of Renfrew, actually. It's the roundabout at Kitlenuke.
Right, Tom, that's something that... Give me a call about it, and we're happy
I've tried, John, and I've had...
You haven't tried calling me, Tom. This is not...
I sent you a message asking for a coffee, John, so...
Right, Tom, this is not a forum for problems
John,
like
I'm not asking for a forum. This is something that has to be... This is a serious situation.
Right. Tom, and I'm telling you I'm asking you, get in contact with me or get in contact with the roads team, and I'm more than happy to pick it up. But, this is not a surgery where, we just turn up and talk about what we want. There's a set agenda here. So more than happy to have a chat. I'll give you a call about it tomorrow, and we can have a chat and see what the issue is, and we'll take it from there. Okay.
That would be excellent, John.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. All right. Thanks very much, folks.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Right,
Thank
bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
You
Do you
can
want me to
stay.
stay? Do you
Yeah,
want me to
yeah.
stay? Wait a minute,
It's,
hold on a second, because what might be, I don't know if I can stop the recording.
well, it's still recording.
Wait, that's